Welcome this evening. Today is Tuesday, the 27th, Mod 12, 2018, Week 3, live session number 2. And actually, I have this in the wrong one. Ooh, I should have done this first. This is all from yesterday. I'm a little off tonight, obviously. As Crystal, the only participant so far in our session tonight, could probably attest to. But we're going to get going, and hopefully you folks can follow along and answer any, I can answer any questions that you have. So, Katie, so to get started, oh my goodness, week 2, live session 2 is week 3, live session 2. I'm going to have to change that. So we're just going to have a very quick review. We're going to do the demo of assignment number 3 and then go over assessment number 3 real quick. So again, like we discussed yesterday, we have our media in the readings and videos. Down in week 3, the pre-recorded lecture, the articles talking about digital advertising and social media, the different aspects that you need to be thinking about trying to get your customers to click, to look at your ads, different ways to format them, and especially, picking your photography, picking your type, layouts, that kind of thing. And the lynda.com playlist is all Photoshop-based videos this week, because we're going to be putting together the ad in Photoshop. Or excuse me, you guys would be putting them in Photoshop, because that is the assessment, not the assignment. Okay, so we are actually going to go through our mood board. This is the assignment number 3, assignment 3, week 3 assignment. We're going to do that first, and then we'll go through the assessment, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes that I can go over a couple more projects. We have so many students in this class. I want to make sure that I kind of get to everybody, or get to as many people as I can. So just to start out, we're going to be using either Illustrator or InDesign for this document, whichever you are more comfortable with. And as I had mentioned yesterday, this is the mood board. It's kind of like a compilation of ideas. Excuse me. So to kind of get your juices flowing, kind of get your inspiration working, when we've been talking about where you find creativity in the discussion, this is kind of one of those assignments, one of those projects that can kind of help you out with that. So we're going to get started here. We have this individual folder, excuse me, that you download and extract the information. Obviously, this is probably pretty simple for the majority of you, but if you have any issues with that, obviously let me know. I'm going to start out with the list of designers. You're going to choose one of these designers whose work you're going to look into. I would suggest doing just a little bit of research. You don't have to go too in depth. Take a look at Paul Rand's work, Paula Scher's work, David Carson. Take a look at each one of their, some examples of their work, and pick one that speaks to you or that seems intriguing enough to you that you would actually enjoy learning a little bit more about. Or if you, maybe not necessarily learning about the work itself, but maybe they use some techniques that you would enjoy learning, trying to figure out yourself. We've had some very creative projects going on in the last 2 weeks. I've seen some very nice layouts. I've seen some very interesting layouts, some different techniques. Oh my goodness, my text over here is jumping as my cursor's kind of hovering. So if there's an individual piece that maybe there's some sketchy strokes of some sort. Maybe there's a patterning that you like. Take a look at that artist and see if you can come up with a way or a technique that mimics what they do. Don't just necessarily pick one just because you think it's easy or that you've maybe already done something in that genre. Pick something that's going to speak to you. That's actually going to be a little bit easier than just picking one out of the blue. So once you have chosen that, that designer, you're going to conduct research on the designer. Just like I said, note how they use the design elements and the design principles. Consult the, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. Consult week 2 discussion background if you need a reminder, which we've been going through all of those design elements and design principles. We're going to go over them again in just a minute. You're going to create an 11 by 17 mood board inspired by their work. Make sure you include the designer's name, and it should, these are the items that you should make sure that you include in that particular mood board. Some color scheme examples, kind of similar to the backs of the flashcards that we did in week 1. Some examples of type that either the artist might have used or may have chosen if you didn't actually see a particular typeface, but you think that they may have used that in a particular piece. Imagery created by the designer, so previous works, or you could even actually, if you happen upon another designer's work that you know is based on the designer that you have chosen, you could also use that because it will reflect the influence of your chosen designer. And you're going to use either Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign. We're going to do this in InDesign tonight just because that's my preference. So, but if you do need some help with doing it in Illustrator instead because you don't want to use InDesign, feel free to let me know. We can go over it in the multi-session, or we can, I can direct you to some tutorials or whatnot. On the second page, you're going to be creating a first draft of the poster in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign. And the text, back in folder, okay. This is the text for the poster. So very similar to the ad that we did this past week, you need to make sure that you include this particular information. Discovering Design in America, Graphic Design Odyssey, the names of the artists, date, location, and the website information. Keep in mind when you are putting that information together, keep in mind hierarchy. I know that I mentioned it on some projects in their feedback. I don't know that I mentioned it in all of them. Hierarchy is considering which items should have more emphasis, more strength, because of the content, the message that is being delivered within your piece. So definitely consider that when you are laying out this information. Okay, so now after creating the first draft of the poster, take a look and try to figure out how you can take the elements that you have on the mood board, the first page of the project, and combine them to a style that represents your designer, but is going to be created by you. We want to make sure that you're not just taking another piece of the designers and putting that as your poster. We want you to be able to replicate a style, but in a new way. So that's why it's very important to pay attention to the individual style and try to deconstruct the pieces that they use using the contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity principles. My goodness, and this the instructions are repeating the 11 by 17 there. We want to make sure that we get that down. So both of the mood board and the poster should be 11 by 17. And remember, the 11 inches, the industry standard is width times height. So this should be 11 inches wide by 17 inches height. Then we're going to create a Word document, and or actually you don't even need to necessarily create a Word document. I don't know why that step is actually in here. We need to make sure that we have all the references, list any sites that you've used. You don't necessarily need to put them in APA format. I just need to make sure that I know where you've gotten all the information and use that, submit that as the third page in your multi-page PDF. And we're gonna go over all this stuff. So let us get started. And actually all of this stuff is already with what we went through there. So, okay. We're going to set it up first. Creating new. And want to make sure that this is in inches. 11 by 17. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually save it so that I have everything all squared away. Okay, and we are going to be using the designer's name. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We're going to be saving it as DES109. You guys are probably familiar with the saving convention already. Assignment 3. Okay, Melissa. Bingo. All right, so now it's already set up, and I am going to actually find my pages window, which is not open, usually is. That's okay. Go to window and pages, and I'm actually going to create 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna make them single just because I am going to prefer that. However you guys do it is completely up to you. Okay, we have to allow shuffle. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. And again, saving. Saving is so important. I don't know if any of you have had, oh, Crystal, I'm so sorry. I missed that question about how my week is going when you first came in. I apologize. I didn't realize that you had said that. My week has been going fine, although I did notice an issue with the some of the deadlines in the grades, so I have to go back through them, so it's a little bit of extra work for me this week, but not a problem. I want to make sure everyone gets the appropriate grades for their assignments. So sorry, a little bit off topic there, but I did want to make sure that I acknowledged you. Okay, so I was mentioning the importance of saving your files. My left hand is typically kind of gotten to, I know that, I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. So my left hand has actually kind of gotten almost in a routine, in a rhythm now, where I save probably every 30 seconds or anytime I do anything of substance in my work. I've had too many instances over the years of doing a decent amount of work on a project and then losing it because I didn't hit Control S, or I think it's Option S on the Mac. So that is so super important. A lot of these programs, these graphic programs, are RAM hogs, and they can cause systems to crash so easily. Adobe is getting much, much better. Illustrator right now is really the, I think the biggest villain there. But either way, whether you're working in InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, Dreamweaver, whatever it is, make sure you save on a regular basis. Otherwise, you will be beating your head against the wall because you've lost something. So, like I said, I've already even saved that. All I did was create 3 pages. But, so what I'm going to do is I took a look. I'm actually going to go with Sol Bass. That's what we're going to do first today. That's what I'm going to look up. And I'm just going to scroll through a couple of the images here. And, oh, looks like he might have actually have been the one to work on the Girl Scout logo, or maybe he just modified it, not sure. So when you are picking out images for your mood board, you want to make sure you use at least probably 3 to kind of get a good idea of the style that the designer liked to work with. this individual artist looks like he kind of liked to use, you know, just 2 or 3 colors per piece, very angular, blocky kind of objects. You know, even though a hand is kind of round and a heart's very round, these all have kind of, you know, jagged points there. Very almost like cartoonish, reminds me maybe of, I don't know, like an old cartoon, like maybe a Pink Panther or something kind of along those lines. Or actually, this even kind of has the look of, you know, the Incredibles movies that have been coming out. You know, the silhouette as the Incredible family is, you know, running about and saving everyone. So a lot of black against a nice bright background, and obviously a lot of reds and yellows. So these are different things to kind of pick up on. I think I'm going to take a look at this one right here. I don't know. Oh, it looks like this is another designer actually. See, choosing to emulate a little salt bass. And I'm going to choose this one too, because I love that movie. I think it's probably one of my favorite Bruce Willis movies because it's so different and I think very undervalued. Let's see. You know, I'm actually going to see if maybe I can find a Saul Bass actually official site, so I can make sure that I actually, here we go, I actually grab a couple of his as well. So, and these are all, oh, actually, you know what? Before I do that, because here I am not even complying with the regulations of the assignment. I have to find the image and make sure I get the website. So I'm copying my website here, going down to InDesign, and I'm going to make that third page my references. And I'm just going to make sure that I have it in there. I will worry about formatting it in just a bit. There we go. And I'm scrolling back up and going to his art gallery now. So let's take a look. I'm going to go for silk screen posters first, see what we got here. And, oh, this is an interesting one because it's out of stock, please inquire. Don't worry, I'm not trying to buy it. So I actually think I will grab that one if I can without it. You know what, actually? I'm going to use my snipping tool for Windows. I don't remember what the keystrokes are for screen capturing for Macs, but I use my snipping tool here for, oh, and it got the Pinterest thing. Cancel. I use the snipping tool mainly because I have a dual monitor system, and if I hit print screen, I get 2 monitors worth of information, and I don't want that. So, save that one, and I'll take a look at maybe 2 more. See if I can find another couple that jump out at me. I loved the perspective of this particular piece that looks like the figure's trying to crawl out of the poster. Oh, these are very interesting as well. I don't know that that is really what I'm looking for. That almost looks like a sculpture. Oh, I wish I could remember the artist's names. I think it was Giacchetti. I think that was the name. And let's see, we'll go non-film posters. Let's see if I can find something in there. Oh, We the People. Oh, see, a lot of these are more, they're not as flat as the other work. Well, we could probably go with this one. This one's very similar to what we were looking at before. Okay, oh, now that's got the hover one. Oh, my goodness, oh well. If you can try to get off with without those stupid things right there, that would be beneficial to your work. I'm just trying to do this quickly for you. And actually, I like this one as well. So I'm going to grab that one too. See, oh, there we go. It disappeared. Thank goodness. Okay. And here we go. So now we have my 4 images that I'm going to use. Oh, nope, not InDesign. There we go. And you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either drag and drop and stick the images in, or you can actually go up to File and Place, which is also Control D or Command D. Yes, Command D. And I mean, I do it either way. All kind of depends on how much room I have going on my computer that day. Ooh, it looks like I grabbed that one twice by accident. Okay, I'm going to fill up the screen here. Control 0, and then I'm going to actually back up just a little bit because this guy is huge. And I'm going to shrink it down. And for some help on the individual software packages, if you need help, well, I already have that one. You know, keystrokes or learning how to do a particular maneuver, feel free to send me a message. Feel free to ask me questions. Okay, so we're going to try to, first of all, we're going to get rid of those margins just because I don't want to see them. We're not going to be printing this, so we don't have to worry about anything like bleed or, you know, bleed allowances or specific margins. We just need to make sure it's on the artboard. In the print industry, the bleed allowance is the space that you would actually extend your artwork to go past. You want to make sure that nothing important, such as important type or anything, is going past the bleed, because that is where the page would actually get snipped off by the page trimmers. The reason why you do that is if you have a piece of artwork that you actually want to go all the way to the side, all the way to the end of your page, you're not going to be able to print it perfectly every single time. So what they do is if you have an 11 by 17 poster and you want your artwork to fill up the entire 11 by 17 poster, we'll just do this real quick. I'll show you. Okay. What you would end up needing to do is actually extend the artwork past this 11 by 17 border slightly. So yeah, usually, you know, 0.6025 or something like that. Usually an 1/8 of an inch is probably standard depending on your printers. Some printers require you to do a little bit more, some require a little less. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're designing something for actual print purposes. A little bit of a tangent there, but you know, something that you'll need to keep in mind. Okay, I just saved that. And so now once you've got your couple of images in here, I'm actually also going to put in my text. We need to make sure we do Saul Bass. And obviously that's so tiny, so we're going to make that much bigger. Let's try, oops. Nope, nope, nope. Wrong one. Okay, now I'm going to try to find some kind of angular, chunky, clunky kind of font. I know AdLib is one. Oh, my computer. There we go. AdLib is one. I don't know how that'll look. We're going to give it a try. Oh, and I don't even have it in here. It must be on one of my other computers. So let's see. Let's see what else I've got. Air Christie. Actually, that kind of works. You know, the letters aren't completely aligned on the bottom here. The bottom of the A, the bottom of the U. That kind of gives a very similar kind of look. So I think we'll go with that. Okay. Now, once you actually have this, you have the text out, the name of the designer. You have your images. We also want to make sure that we pick some kind of color scheme. And where's my swatches? Here we go. Just to have that open, I'm just going to put a color in here just so I can grab it. And I'm going to copy and paste. They're all on the same alignment here. And I'm going to select them, and I'm just going to make sure that they are all equidistant from each other. Okay, and there we go. Now, some of you might actually have this set up so that you'll get, you know, that kind of notification. The lines kind of show up when things are equidistant, when they're when you're lining up. Actually, right there, if you see if the line that goes vertical there, that's telling me something that and I can't let go of the mouse right now. I wish I could, but that's telling me that where I'm trying to place these 4 blocks, that center is now currently aligned center, vertically centered with the blue image and the, you know, the burnt orange brown image right above it. So if you have them set up like that, you can do that. You can use the alignment tools like I was just using up here. That is personal preference, and my setup here might be a little bit different from yours. If there's something that you can't find, feel free to ask. I want to make sure that I can make things easy for you guys. It might be just as easy to, you know, ask online, but you know, especially if you are stuck, please let me know. So now I'm going to pick a couple of colors that are kind of in these areas, these images here, by using the eyedropper tool. Definitely want to pick the oranges and the blacks, because they obviously use those. Well, you know, I'm going to get the yellow in there too, and I think I'll actually even do one more, because it did look like there were occasional blues in there for a little bit of contrast. Okay, I'm going to group all those together so I can grab them easily all together. And I'm going to kind of shrink them down a little bit here, just so it fits on the page now. Okay, so now I'm saving again, and I want to arrange these in a manner that it looks nice. Obviously, I'm using the contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity principles. I think this one, because it's white, it almost makes it feels like this negative space. So I'm going to actually shrink this down just a little bit, and I'm going to make this orange one, I think, a little bit bigger. You can definitely overlap images if you would like, if you think that that works with your layout. Okay, and there we go. I'm actually, because I actually do like this overlapping, but before it was kind of touching his elbow, so I didn't like the way that that was going, because it almost felt like it was encroaching on an important image. And now I don't want to fill up this whole area just because I don't think it'll look right. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Oh, and my bounding box is a little bit big there. Okay, I'm going to touch this up a little bit. There we go. And I'm actually even going to make this a little bit smaller, because I'm going to put his name right down here. Okay, so feel free to be creative with this mood board. They are designed specifically to give you inspiration, to help your creativity. Experiment. See what you like, see what you don't like. Maybe, you know what, actually, because I feel like right now, I feel like I'm missing something right here. I don't want to center align it just because that's just my own, oh, you know what, actually, it kind of works. So, you know what, I actually am going to leave it. I'm going to first actually, there we go. Make sure that that's horizontally centered. There we go. Yep. All right. So I actually initially didn't want to center. I like asymmetry, but it wasn't working. It felt like something was missing over here. So by adding the name and putting it in the center there, it kind of works better. What do you think, Crystal? Is there anything about that? And please feel free to criticize me. I am not one to be sensitive. Is there anything in there that you think is missing, or maybe needs to be adjusted, or something that jumps out at you that you think is positive? No, ma'am, you think it looks great? Okay, then. All right, so, excuse me. So we have, as our mood board, you know what, actually, I do still feel like something is missing here, though. I'm going to just add, I'm going to open this text block over here. It's funny how sometimes you'll do something and you'll look at it and, oops, and you'll think it's okay, but something just isn't right. I feel like I should know how to how to do this a little bit faster. But when you have people watching you, sometimes you don't go as quickly as you're like, there we go. Now I think that's a little bit better. And maybe others wouldn't agree with me, and that's okay. Whoop. Of course, now I feel like I'm Bob Ross talking, and that's okay. We're gonna have some happy accidents in some of these courses. Yes, not as much open space. Right, exactly. I feel like I almost don't want it to come all the way to the edge of these color swatches, which is why I'm actually kind of adjusting the horizontal, what do they call, I don't think it's horizontal spacing. Oh, scaling, there we go. I knew it was something different. Excuse me. So I'm kind of just smushing this in just a little bit more because I think having the angle in here, I think gives it a little bit more of an interesting look as opposed to having these be right on the edge of those swatches. So, okay, so now we have done our mood board, and I feel like something else is missing and I'm not sure what. Maybe I'll have to go back to that in a second. Oh, you know what? No, it's not. Something else is missing. This is what I'm actually going to do for my poster. And it was something I didn't even think of until just now. So I'm going to get started by, I'm actually going to take that text and I'm going to copy and paste it right into my project. I prefer to do this when I'm working. I copy and paste it and make sure that it's legible so I can read it. And as I work, there we go, I'm saving it again. As I work, I keep this over here and I delete as I go. So, you know, once I do my title, I'll get rid of that. Once I do the names of the artists, I'll get rid of that because it just ensures that I have every bit of information in here that I need. And so now I'm going to start off by making a border because it looks like he uses a lot of borders in his work. If you notice, we have the white border around this blue background, and even though it's not equidistant all the way around, he almost has like a little label area here. Same thing on this bottom, actually same thing on the orange one, even though I know that this is just an influence one. So it almost has this kind of cutout area to it, and I'm going to combine that area and pick, I don't want to use a red, I want to use an orange just because that's my own. Ooh, I don't like that one though. So, and this is one of the wonderful things about this industry. I love just being able to play and figure out what I want to do. I think I'm actually, see, what I just did was I actually copy and pasted my border. It's kind of hard to see when you're, oops, sorry about that. It's kind of hard to see when you are not actually using the keystrokes. Oh, excuse me. Oh, what did I just, there we go. So I had copy and pasted it because I actually want to put this, I wanted to put this in the background and I want to make it black. I want to use that nice contrast that they have in a lot of these. And, okay, so Discovering Design in America, a graphic design odyssey featuring work by Paul Rand. Share. We have all these lovely artists. I think I'm going to make the Discovering Design in America, the title, I'm going to put that down at the bottom. It almost feels like a Polaroid. you know, you have the little area down at the bottom there. So I'm going to put that there, and I'm actually going to even make it a little bit bigger, I think. I know that I'm going fast here, but I want to make sure that I try to get through as much of this as possible just to give you guys an idea of what we're supposed to be doing here. So let me see, what did I use up here? I used A.R. Christie, I think. A.R. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I did forget one thing. I knew I was missing something. A.R. Christie. Okay. So I'm going to backtrack just for 1 second. And I hadn't put, I mean, I had this one typeface right here, but that was it. We wanted to make sure that we were putting a couple here. And I'm just making sure that I didn't forget anything else since type example imagery. There we go. Yep, just the type. That was the only other thing that I was missing here. So let's see. I'm gonna scroll through some other things in here real briefly. I have so many different fonts, and I mean there are literally millions and millions out there. Just to reiterate, you can go, I mean, you really can go anywhere, but Adobe Typekit and Adobe Fonts is a great resource. My absolute favorite, though, I have made sure to mention in a couple of my lectures previously. I think I've even included a link in one of the announcements, is dafont.com. There are tons of free fonts on there. You can search by category, which is also super helpful, but you can also search by name as well. The trouble with searching by name is that sometimes you search by a name and you get something that is completely different from what you're looking for, because different designers, different font designers might name them the same thing. So looking up by category, genre, style is always very, very helpful. See, that is, I think it's kind of there, but I almost feel like that's a little bit more 60s-ish. I'm gonna just hold on to that for just 1 second. See what else I can find in here real quick, and if I can't find anything, I will take a look at DaFont and we'll go through a search right there. And let's see what we got here. Oh, that works. I actually just downloaded this one recently from my son. This is a Super Mario Brothers font. We had a birthday party this weekend for him. And actually, I think that works very nicely. Okay. Just want to make sure, like I said, just want to make sure I don't have anything else that I need to work on. So you can just write, write the designer's name down a couple of times, or even list out the font name. Actually, I'll do that on this one. There we go. And we'll shrink that down. And in order to fit this in here, I'm going to scooch these up a little bit. There I go again with my scooching. You'd think it was like my favorite word or something. And you know what? I don't want it near my title. So I am going to put this right on top of my palette. There we go. And list it right there. You can do, at least I try to do at least 2 different font styles. If you want to do 3 or 4, that's absolutely fine too. However, you are going to be able to derive inspiration from this. See, there we go. And I'm going to stretch that back out. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Align. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it changes the balance of the piece, obviously. And I would probably even continue to work on this on my own to kind of get it exactly how I would like it. But in the interest of moving on, we're going to move on again. And now that I've been looking at those pictures, I'm actually going to change this to a reddish orange. There we go, much better. Okay, so now we've got Discovering Design in America, a graphic design odyssey. And I'm going to capitalize this because I actually want that to be more of a focus. I'm going to center this. And we're going to try this off, and I don't think this has an italic form. No, it does not. So I'm going to shear it just a little bit. So we have a little bit of a difference in the two lines, because the main title is the Discovering Design in America, and a graphic design odyssey is kind of like a subtext almost. Oh, and that does not do it justice. I'm going to make a different line in there. And I'm going to increase the stroke a bit just to make it a little bit thicker, because that thin line did not work with this thicker text. And I'm going to increase the leading. For those of you that I mentioned increasing leading or decreasing leading, this is it right here. Okay, that's the line spacing. So now you can see it doesn't, the line there, you know, one of our elements does not look like it's being encroached upon by the text now. And I think, here we go, a lot of his text is smaller. It's not huge. So, and he seems to utilize the corners occasionally. We have the corner right here, the corner right here. I would probably, let's see. I would probably almost, I'm doing a little search here, and I'm not going to look for, I'm not going to actually put anything in, but I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of what I might place in that box. I'm not really coming up with anything. What I'm actually looking for, and I probably would have just ended up creating it on my own. Jagged. Actually, you know what? Let's this palette. That's not really what I want either. So I probably would actually take something very similar to this, where it's kind of a silhouette, and instead of this being nice and smooth, kind of, let me see if I can actually use my lovely annotate tool here. Kind of make it jagged like this. And I would do that most likely in Illustrator and kind of make that the shape that I stick inside the, I'm going to erase that now, that I stick inside this black box here. Okay. Right in here. But just so that I'm not completely copying what I've got going on here, I'm going to do some additional shapes in here. And let's say I'm going to make that a white because I don't want to put too much more color into this, oops, into this composition. Oh, excuse me, goodness. That is what happens when you don't take your allergy pill in the morning. And actually, I am going to use the Pathfinder here. So I only have this white section here. If you notice, it's not extending past here anymore. And let's see, I think now that I have the title in here, I'm going to use this text again. And I'm going to put featuring work by stretching it out just a little bit to kind of make it, I'm going to fill up the space. And once again, because I actually do like the way that this font is looking, I thought maybe about using a slightly less, maybe I'll use it a slightly less decorative font for these names. I'm going to make it white so you can see it. And I'm going to left justify it because the words are coming down here. So you want featuring work by, and I want the names right here to end that sentence. So now that's kind of one of those things to keep in mind, how the viewer's eye is going to be reading the poster, the advertisement, whatever it is that you happen to be designing. You want to make sure that you're considering the movement of your piece. So, you know what, let's see. Oh, you know what, I haven't done in a while. I haven't saved. I noticed my computer stutter there for a minute and freaked out. And so, like I said, you always want to make sure that you're saving. Let's see, I'm just going to go with a fairly, not bland, but I'm just going to go with a basic sans serif font. Let's go with Camel. No. It chose the wrong one on me here. Nope. Where did you go? Avenir. Oh, you jumped on me again. There we go. Oh, I don't know what it's doing. So you know what? We're just going to say, forget it. We're going to go with Arial because I know it's there. And I'm going to, there we go. I just wanted to kind of make it a little bit more narrow because a lot of this text is very narrow. I don't want something very wide here when this font right here is not very wide, because then it will start to look a little balanced. But anyway, so we do not have that much time left, so I want to make sure that I actually go over the assessment real quick too. Anyways, just moving on, obviously I would need to make sure that I included the date and the location. I might just put up the finished thing after the fact so you guys can see where I ended up going with this. Also need to make sure that I include the ticket information with the website. And after that, I mean, and this is just a rough thing too. If you don't finish it, that's fine because we're going to be working on it again. Okay, so we're going to pretend, okay, this is my draft. Make sure that you include your references. So I'm actually just going to put up here references, which you can't see, obviously, because the type is too tiny. We're going to go 50. Okay, and try to see if you can get this one right in here, obviously, to a slightly smaller font, so you can try to read that. Okay, if you want to indicate on here what particular thing you grabbed, that this was for this page, this image. The second one was for this image, because I obviously didn't do that as we were going. I didn't continue doing it. I made sure I did one sample. But and then when you guys are when you're finished with this, my goodness, I am struggling tonight. You're going to export it as a PDF. Okay, and when you open it back up, you should have all 3 pages. If for some reason you are noticing that you do not have all 3 pages, let me know. We can figure out what your export settings are and why you are coming up with only single pages or only 2 pages. So we can definitely troubleshoot that, and that most likely will not take long. So we are going to quickly go back, see if I can kind of go over this real quick. So these are something that I probably should have said before we started working with the mood board. When you are researching your artist, making sure that you are trying to figure out the style of it. I kind of did a little bit as we were going through the demo. I had noticed that the typefaces were kind of blocky. There wasn't a lot of texture. It was really kind of flat images. The particular colors that Saul Bass used, lots of oranges, fiery kind of colors, very bold against black. Shapes very angular. He doesn't use a lot of line, although he did actually use those borders. I don't see a lot of point, individual circles or anything like that. The contrast, the repetition, alignment, and proximity, you want to make sure that you are taking a look at seeing how they lay things out, how they position items in relation to others. Make notes, sketch it out if you have to, whether it's by hand or digitally. That either way is fine. Find those particular pieces, kind of extract them in order to determine how you're going to be creating your poster. Create vector pieces as you needed. This is what I was actually going to do. I was going to try to find a paintbrush or artist palette to place in that box somehow to indicate that those names were artists, and then change the artwork as you need to. Excuse me. So as I had mentioned also in the demo, like all these things I kind of already have gone over without the presentation, which I suppose is a good thing. Making sure you're using appropriate colors. You can go to the Adobe Color tool. If you need explanation about that, I can definitely shoot me an image and I'll maybe do a little recording on multi-session if anyone seems like they're interested in that. Using the type kit, Adobe Fonts, DeFont. Myfont.com is a good resource, but you have to pay for a lot of those things, so you might not want to do that. So we got 6 minutes left. Gobble, 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 gobble. We have the secret question of today. With last week being Thanksgiving, approximately how many turkeys were purchased last week to be consumed? And I was completely blown away by this. My husband actually brought this up to me. In the US, approximately 46 million turkeys were purchased for consumption for Thanksgiving, which I just thought was nuts until I kind of did the math and thought about how many people there are in this country, and it actually kind of made sense. So, and that's the little website that I got that information from. There are a whole bunch of other really cool Thanksgiving facts on there if you're interested in taking a look. It's not graphic design related. It's just, kind of fun. And okay, we're going to go over assessment 3 really quick, especially since I can't technically go over how to do it with you. All right, and actually I'm going to move this over here. So, oh goodness, excuse me. There we go. Now back in we are still in the assignment portion. So now we're going to go to the assessment, week 3 assessment. And here we are talking about the social media and its importance, the designing and how the design is important in social media blasts, in email blasts, in creating just regular ads, in all sorts of the different uses, and just how they have become such a big part of the communication and marketing industries. The importance of how you need to make sure that you engage your reader emotionally, and that is really the biggest portion, because you want to make sure that you draw the reader in to a call to action, whether it's clicking or simply doing a little bit more research into the company that's doing the blast. You want to make sure that you're combining images and text, and text placement and image selection is a very large component. I'm actually just going to pull something up right quick as I'm doing this. You want to make sure that the images you're picking are going to be suitable to place text. You don't want to be picking something that is going to be too busy, and therefore you have no place to, excuse me, no place to actually put your text, because then that completely defeats the purpose. And this is not the image that I wanted to pull up. This is the image I wanted to pull up. Okay, here's an example. This particular image was created, or this social media blast was created with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different images. So the logo, a photograph up here, photograph here, and then 1, 2, 3 more photographs right here. There was a background, plain background, just some blocks of blocks of color here. The photograph was full color, but it was muted down to make it a little bit more simple, because we wanted this guy to be a little bit more in the forefront. This was for the Kentucky Derby a couple years ago. So it almost gives you an area to put the text by creating these blocks right here. And we have this nice gigantic block of color right here. Negative space is not necessarily a bad thing. This is, you know, something to keep in mind when you are considering proximity. I didn't want this horse overlapping the drinks. I didn't want the drinks overlapping the horse. I gave them a nice, what's the word? I'm blanking out. Not a nice margin here to, you know, we don't want the horse drinking. But we want to make sure that like I said, the images that we're picking are suitable for type. If I want to make sure that I'm doing, let's say, a flower background, we're doing something for springtime, your image choice is going to be very important. And actually, this is even a great example. We have several images on here, several photos on here that have perfect spaces for text. And it doesn't even need to be like, this is clearly a border. This, you know, obviously was kind of vectorized kind of. We have these, some that are a little more gentle, you know, but you could you could potentially even use this spot, maybe use Photoshop to extend that wooden background a little bit, or maybe make it fade out into a white background, and that would be a perfect area for text. The message is going to be one of the most important things, so you want to utilize you want to incorporate the text with the background so that they flow together, but that the image doesn't overpower your message. So again, we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be using Photoshop for that instead of InDesign or Illustrator. And we have the assessment. You're going to be creating 3 social media posts. The post will consist of the image you create on your own and a message to you given below from each client. Okay, so we have client 1, client 2, client 3. We have the message here, here, and here. And this is this is essentially what you do as a designer. You take what they are looking to express, and that's how you visually communicate it. Here are a couple of different sites. Pexels is awesome. On splash.com, I've actually personally never used before, but these are, you know, this is a free one. You can grab lots of different photos off there. Again, using Photoshop, here is your size. Make sure, because this is a social media site, excuse me, social media assignment, make sure that you are using pixels, not inches, because it will be read on the screen. Consider readability in your usage of text. Ensure adequate contrast. I kind of already talked a little bit about that. We're going to create 1 Photoshop file with 3 artboards. Your instructor, that's me, will share potential stock photo sites in the live session. I kind of did that already, but I'll list a couple more, and I'll actually put them up on the announcement page. And I'm actually writing a note myself now, stock photo sites. And we have the PDF for the submission, and again, the standard file naming convention. If you are unsure about what to do, take a look at the benchmarks. Here we have a couple of different examples. Oh, excuse me, I didn't want to click on that one. There we go. So this individual started out, it looks like, with a photograph of the two people in the nice scenery, and used some effects to kind of create this kind of, what's the word I'm looking, my goodness, I am really struggling today. This almost like crystalline kind of look. And he's pointing, or she is pointing, I can't tell, at the text. So it was a very clear place to put that message. That they did a very nice job, that the movement between the person pointing and the dynamic angle here kind of directs your eye right to that text. And with this particular ad right here, we have the main message right here, but I love the hand-drawn lines right here with the stark red against the black, because it really creates an awesome sense of movement with this guy kicking the heavy bag. So, and then you have your rubric right down here to help you out in determining what things you need. If you need, again, any help, we have the announcements, the lecture recordings, the assignment specs, all these things that I went over yesterday. I will obviously be in my multi-session on Thursday. Feel free to email me your questions if you can't come to the multi-session and you have a question about how to do something. You know what? Give me a call, shoot me a message. I can do a little demo in the multi-session, unless it's, you know, specifically how to do this project, because I can't do that. This is your quiz or your test. But I can show you how to use individual tools, or maybe help guide you towards different resources. And again, Coach Christy Paulson, the Student Success Center, all these different things, and even each other. If you notice, if you happen to know each other, or, you know, maybe just want to put out a blast to other classmates and see if anyone is having an easier time, they might be able to make suggestions themselves. That's what we do as designers. We help each other out. Multi-session this Thursday, 12:30 to 2:30 Mountain Time. Same link. I'll be there making phone calls and working on next week's lesson. Excuse me. So please come and see me, come talk to me, come email me. And we ran over by a few minutes. Obviously didn't get to the critique, which bums me out, but that's okay. Crystal, any questions you have? Hopefully you're still there. I hope I didn't bore you tonight. But I want to make sure, again, like, because you're still here, I want to make sure that you're all set. No questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and thank you, Crystal, for coming in again tonight. And I hope that I will be able to see and talk with you folks on Thursday. Have a good one.